Hello everyone. About a year ago, I posted on social media six different writing tips that I think could help. And they're just like general writing tips, they're not very specific. The video didn't do extremely well because I don't really post that often on social media. And it did pretty well on TikTok, but not enough for me to say that the video blew up. So I just wanted to do a video sort of more in depth and explain what I meant in that post. So here are the 6 writing tips from someone who is working on the second draft of her novel. The first tip is write diary entries from your OC's point of view. You have to choose one of the characters that you want to know better. This first advice is for people who don't know their character well. Choose the character that you don't understand or that you want to understand more, and pretty much think like them and write a diary entry. So just write it. It doesn't have to be perfect, it can be really bad. Write a bunch of diary entries. The one that sticks out the most to you, use that one as the voice for your character. Write a diary entry from their perspective to know how they think and how they would act. Write down what they would think about certain situations. These situations can be from the book or the story that you want to write, or they can also be sort of a backstory for them. These entries can be literally about anything. They can be about the events that your characters have gone through in the past or are currently going through. It can be tied to the book or to their backstory. You know, there aren't any rules in this, just do what you think is best and go. Follow your instinct, your gut feeling. Second advice, find a playlist with your story's vibes. You can create your own playlist on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever music platform that you have. Just create your own playlist with the vibes of your story or also the vibes of your characters. You know, it can be related to the lyrics or to the rhythm. Just anything that reminds you of your story in general. Another option is already finding a created playlist on YouTube. That's what I use the most. And just find a playlist that has the most songs that kind of vibe with your story. So if the playlist that you have sort of sounds a lot like the story that you have planned, listen to that while you are working or writing, maybe just coming up with a plan or plotting. Listen to that playlist and it would help you get into that writing zone and sort of visualize your story better. Well, I use this method a lot when I'm plotting, when I'm creating the story and creating the characters. When I have to come up with new ideas or new scenes, I listen to these playlists. I don't use it for writing. I like to write in silence a lot, but yeah, there's really no rules to this. You can just use it whenever you feel a little bit stuck. Tip number 3, or advice number 3, write down any ideas or anything you want to have. So let me explain this better because the subtitle is not the best one. So for example, if you want to include a fighting sword scene or just like an action scene and you want that to be part of your story, write that idea down. I'm not saying to write the scene down, just like write down, oh, I want to include a scene that has a dance or a scene that has like a sword fight. And this tip is more when you are plotting and when you're creating the story, not when you already have the story created. Yeah, just like get a list and write the title of your project. If you don't have a title, then just put untitled, right? Just put the title and then do like a list of what you want to include. That way you have that idea in your mind. Look, it doesn't need to even make sense for the story. If you just want to add it, just write down that you want that idea. For example, you want your book to include dragons, or you want it to include video games. Let's say if you want to include dragons and video games, but you don't know how to mix them both. Don't worry about that part. Don't worry about the part that it makes sense. You know, it's your book. You can do whatever you want. And even if it's not a book, like it's your story, you can really just do whatever you want. And I'm not saying to like make it make sense, just make a list of what you want to add. And then when you're already like on the next stage of making everything make sense, that's when you will organize the idea. But for now, just include it, even if it doesn't fit the story. You can just worry about organizing it after the first draft or during the outlining. You know, once you actually write it down, you can see if you want to keep it or not. For example, in the novel that I'm writing right now, one of the first things that I really wanted to do was I wanted to include like a ball scene, like, you know, those like royal balls, like a dance. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but yeah, I wanted to include that really badly. And so I wrote that into the story, and I wrote that in the first draft. And when I started reading the first draft after like a month of a break, I realized that it made no sense for the story, that adding that would just be like a very big filler and it wouldn't do much. So sadly, I had to like get rid of it, but I wasn't super sad because I followed that idea from the beginning. And now with like a fresh eye, I sort of understood that it wasn't necessary. So maybe for you, the scene that you wanted to add will be necessary. But yeah, it's just like experimenting, seeing if it works or not. It's better, you know, to be like sorry and, erase that scene than kind of feel a little bit guilty that you didn't add that from the beginning. Tip number 4, write down the scene. If you have a specific scene that you can't get out of your mind, just write it down. It doesn't matter if the scene doesn't fit in with the story, or if you haven't even started writing your first draft, or maybe you haven't even gotten to the scene yet. Just write it. Afterwards, you can write down the scenes that are supposed to come before or afterward, and with some editing, it will all be connected and you will be able to create a cohesive story. This also helps you see what you're capable of writing, and it will help you come up with more ideas. I have found that writing the scenes that keep repeating themselves on my mind help me calm down, and they help with any mental stress when it comes to writing. They can also help you clear up your mind. So if you're a lot like me, you're probably like going through the same scene over and over and over again. This happened to me before I knew that I wanted to be a writer. So I would only think about the certain scenes over and over for years, and that was really exhausting. So when I started writing, I wrote those scenes first, and then I stopped writing the story altogether because I got burnt out. So my tip is just, if you have one idea, just write it down, because, and also if it keeps repeating on your mind, it can also give you like a lot of stress if you want to focus on something else. So I think just writing it down, even if it sucks, even if it's cringy, even if it's the worst writing you've ever read in your life, worst thing you've ever written, just write it down, because it will give you a lot of mental clarity. Also, if you don't use any of those scenes in the novel or story that you're writing, and I say story because I feel like these tips can also work for screenwriters, because at the end of the day, we all are writing a story with characters, with a problem, and with a resolution. So I think these tips work for everyone. Yeah, if you don't use it, then you can just check those scenes in the future, and maybe that will create a new story. Or maybe, it will just sit there and just do nothing, but you can also compare it to your future writing and see how much you've grown. I think writing is just, you have to try. If you don't try, then you won't know. And that's with writing. I wouldn't really apply that to everything in life, but I would apply it to writing because it's not really harming anyone. It's just helping you at the end of the day. Tip number 5, write a scene based on an edit audio. Let me explain this better. I know it sounds a little bit cringy, and maybe for people that don't have a big imagination, they think it's cringy for me to say it. But at the same time, if someone is watching this video and they're a writer, they are creative. Like, you cannot be a writer that's not creative. So I'm pretty sure almost every creative person has at least once heard a song and they have imagined either themselves in a fictional scene, or they could have also imagine a scene of a movie, or maybe if they're editors, those editors that are on like Instagram and TikTok, maybe they imagined, oh, this could be a really good song for an edit. Maybe they imagined themselves in the edit, or maybe their own characters in the edit. At the end of the day, I'm just talking about imagination and how music plays a big role in creativity and imagination. So I'm pretty sure most people, if they're watching this, they can relate to the fact that they have an active imagination and that it gets mostly triggered by music, because that's the case for me. People imagine themselves in music videos or maybe performing. So I'm just saying, if you have an active imagination to do with music, this tip will help you a lot. Or maybe you have already used this advice that I have without knowing it. So I'm just gonna say this advice for those who haven't used it. So let me explain it. Pretend that your story is already published and loved by many fans. Pretend that they've done edits of certain scenes from your story. So what you're gonna do is that you're going to search for edit audios on YouTube. Search for like edit audios that are like for the happy main character, or I'll put some examples on screen because I can't think of any examples right now. What I've seen a lot is like soft edit audios. I listen to those a lot. So you're gonna search for the vibes that you want to go for. Let's say you want to write a very sad scene, then you're gonna search for sad audios. If you want to write a happy scene, you're gonna search for happy, and so on. So that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna search for that specific genre of what you want to write. Then you're going to listen to it, and with those audios, you're going to imagine the story that you want to write, or the scene that you want to write. While you listen to that story and imagine, you're going to write it down. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just write down what you're feeling and the first thing that comes to mind. So it may sound very silly or cringy to do, but it has helped me keep so much motivation when it comes to writing because, that kind of like imagination that, oh, people already like my story kind of helps me move forward because, yeah, it just gives me motivation that people already like it, even though, that's not the case. But sometimes being a little bit delusional can help you, and, just having a little bit more hope and a little bit more faith in you, in your ideas in writing. So it has helped me write new plot ideas. Like, I have come up with new scenes and new problems just by this. And I've also been able to write chapters. So I don't listen to the same audio like over and over again, but I do listen to like the whole playlist. I don't know if I'm explaining myself. I will show an example of this, by the way. Let's see. What type of audio do we want to do? I feel like a lot of writers like to do very tragic scenes. So let's put something like tragic audio scenes. Audio edit. Oh crap, let me put tragic audio edits. So see, these are all the ones that appear. See, I'm telling you, this girl here, she has edit audios for your OC's trauma backstory. You can go to that. You can go to the other one. Um, let's see, which one would it be? Okay, I like this one. This one, the your fave Willie? I don't know. Edit audio for your tragic love story? I don't know about that. This can be very cringy. The thing that you have to do is you have to survive that cringe so you can go on, because for me writing sometimes is hard because it can be cringy. So you just have to do the first step. And okay, so this one says sad edit audios. Okay, you hear that? So you can listen to the entire video while you're writing. You want to write a tragic scene? Just think about, you need to know what type of scene you want to write first. So I'll do it with you. Let's say that in this scene, a girl is finding out that her friend is dead. So what do we do with that? We keep that in mind, and then you search for the audio that you think makes sense for your story. So I think the first audio, literally the first one that appeared, Cats in the Cold, I think that one's perfect for the scene that I just said. So let's listen to it again. Okay, so let's think this audio sort of makes you feel sad. It has very nostalgia vibes and sad vibes, so I think it fits with something tragic, something like, oh no, she just found out that her friend is dead, and it's sort of in slow motion. So you think about this scene, think about it with the audio, and literally write it down. Like, that's what I'm saying. Or maybe you haven't had the scene yet, so just like know what type of scene you want to write. Let's say you want to write a tragic story again. You want this scene to be very sad, and you're coming up with new tragedies. Just listen to the stamps and the audios in these playlists, and trust me, there's no right way to do this. Your brain will just come up with new ideas if you let it. If you're like in that zone of writing and you know that you have to come up with an idea, just know that you want to make it tragic, or you want to make it happy or depressing or like very chaotic. Listen to the playlist and think about your characters, think about what fits with what audio, and then choose your favorite one and write it down. So that's pretty much what he meant. And yeah, you can continue now with number 6. The sixth and final tip for writing in general is write down quotes or dialogue. Actually, I didn't come up with this by myself. I will be taking this idea from this YouTuber. Her name is Anna New. pretty much all of my writing advice and, the writing advice that I apply in my life comes from her. I was able to like plot my first draft because of her and a video that she made, so I really suggest following her. So all credit goes to her because this is literally her idea, but I really wanted to emphasize it and repeat it. You're just gonna write down any dialogues from characters that you're coming up with or quotes that go with your story. This could be, let's say that this character is saying, "Oh, I'm hungry," and that just like is pretty much sums up their character. I know it's a very stupid line that I just came up with, but it's an example. So you're just gonna write it down. Honestly, when you come up with a dialogue anywhere, just write it down wherever you are. I know most of people in the world, they have phones, so use the notes app, write it down, keep it there. Maybe if you're in your house and you want to use a notebook, write it down in the notebook. Maybe if you have a napkin, write it down. Just like write it down, because I know most people don't have an exceptional memory and they can't remember their own dialogue that they created. So if you write it down, you will be able to remember and use it. You can write some context to your dialogue as well, so it all makes sense. Like, for example, if this character is saying that they're hungry, just put some like context of it. Maybe you could put that the context is that they are just bored, or if someone asked them if they're okay. Maybe the context is if they're just thinking out loud. Like the context matters, because if you just put "I'm hungry" in your notes app, then you're gonna be a little bit confused as to where in the story that dialogue belongs. I think this works very, very well for both novel writers and screenwriters, maybe short story writers in general that have dialogue. So I really hope these tips have helped you somehow, and if they haven't, I'm so sorry. I will come up with more advice on how to write. If you want like something more in depth, I don't know, maybe if you want something to do with dialogue or characters, I would be very happy to do those videos, right? I love characters, I love creating characters, and creating dialogue. Those are my two strengths. I will be linking my short story that I submitted to a contest. Spoiler alert, I didn't win, but I wrote it in 1 week. It's not the best writing, so beware, but it's a short story, so if you want to read anything free, just click on the Readsy link down below. I hope this has helped you. I hope you liked the video, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!